When you go into your local GameStop, it's not uncommon to see a discount bin full of pretty decent modern games at a low price. Sometimes you'll even find games for the most current consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series, for $20 or less. But in these discount bins, you'll almost never see a game for the Nintendo Switch, a console that was released almost 7 years ago. Instead, these games are sitting on the shelf at full price, regardless of when they released. Now, I've often wondered why this is the case. How can games for a console that is nearing the end of its life cycle still cost almost $100 when it's common to see an Xbox or PlayStation version of the exact same game cost less than half the price? Well, there are actually a lot of potential reasons, and we'll hopefully cover them all today. The first and most obvious reason is supply and demand. Like all companies, Nintendo's number one priority is to maximize their profits. A company will always charge as much as they possibly can for a product, assuming that product is still selling consistently. I don't think Nintendo initially intended to be selling Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey, two games that released in 2017, for $79.99 today. But that is the current Canadian retail price. Even this long into its life, the Nintendo Switch and its biggest games are still selling very well, which allows Nintendo to continue charging that initial retail price. Now I'm going to bring up a comparison quickly to the PlayStation 4. At this time in the PS4's life cycle, 6 to 7 years after its release, the console's biggest exclusive titles like God of War 2018 and Bloodborne had greatest hits versions available. You know, that red box that stands out awkwardly when you put it next to all of your blue boxes. Well, this greatest hits technique is actually something Sony has done for a long time and can be seen all the way back to the PlayStation 1. When a console is nearing the end of its lifespan and some of those console-defining games aren't selling well anymore, Sony will heavily reduce the price in hopes of significantly increasing the volume of sales. Back in the day, these greatest hits versions were actually manufactured in a cheaper way, often including things like a lower quality version of the instruction manual. Though today, in December of 2023, aside from the red tag on the box, you probably won't notice a difference in the quality. I actually love that Sony does this, as when I was younger, especially during the PS2 and PS3 era, it gave me an opportunity to play a lot of games I otherwise never would have been able to purchase. However, this brings me to my next point, valuing your intellectual properties. Nintendo has been the center of meme culture for years due to how they try to protect their IPs. From things like shutting down small Smash Bros. Tournaments to suing creators of ROM sharing websites, Nintendo has always taken serious measures to ensure that the franchises that they created stay copyright protected. Now, it doesn't take a genius to realize that Nintendo goes extremely overboard with a lot of this stuff, often really angering the company's most loyal fans. However, this aggressive protection of their IPs is one of the reasons Nintendo can continue to charge as much as they want for their games. If you want to play a game like Super Mario or The Legend of Zelda, the only way you can do this is on a Nintendo console. I mean, sure, theoretically you could emulate these games on a PC, but most average consumers don't have the technical skills to comfortably do this, or they fall along the same lines as me. Someone who doesn't have the desire to emulate Nintendo games on a PC and is happy to pay for the product the way the company intended, assuming that I feel there is enough value in said product. So simple supply and demand and protection of intellectual properties are some of the factors that lead to Nintendo Switch games being so expensive, but there are still many more things that go into it. Another thing to consider is the manufacturing costs associated with physical games. I recently made a video about digital gaming and the difficulties associated with trying to purchase all games physically in a world that seems to be going all digital, and one of my biggest points made in that video is physical games often just don't feel worth it anymore. When I purchase a new PS5 game, the case feels incredibly cheap. There's almost no case candy like an instruction manual or inside artwork, and even the case itself usually feels like it's on the verge of falling apart. The reason that the Nintendo Switch is the only modern console that I collect physical games for is this almost never feels like the case with Nintendo games. Aside from some third-party ports that were clearly released as a quick cash grab, Nintendo Switch games still feel great. From the interior box art to the art on the cartridge itself, when I purchase a physical Switch game, I usually don't feel like I got ripped off after. On that note, cartridges are much more expensive to manufacture than discs are. One of the reasons we don't see Nintendo taking a greatest hits approach on games these days is there just isn't that much money to be made on selling a physical copy at $20 when you consider the costs that go into manufacturing that game. Though the exact numbers are difficult to find online, it is safe to assume that manufacturing costs for physical games on the Switch are much higher than those on the Xbox Series or PlayStation 5. Now, Nintendo has also done an excellent job building a strong legacy, and the company is well known for only producing things of the highest quality. Whether or not this is true is up for you to decide, but you can't deny the brand power that they have. When non-gamer parents are looking for a video game for their child, they know that they can trust Nintendo to provide a high-quality, family-friendly game. That trust is something Nintendo has established through decades of consistency and their core company values. Parents will often choose to purchase something like Donkey Kong for their child because they themselves played Donkey Kong growing up, and they know what type of experience to expect from that product. It's usually a safer bet than a franchise like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. While both of those games are fun to play for many, the hardware limitations aren't the only reason you usually don't see them on Nintendo consoles. Nintendo is very careful when it comes to choosing what games can be played on their consoles. Even now, it's fairly uncommon to see mature-rated games on the Nintendo Switch when you're in the store, which is a stark contrast to PlayStation and Xbox, where you will see mostly mature-rated titles for the console. Again, Nintendo really aims for that family-friendly branding, and it works incredibly well for them. So hopefully I covered all of the real reasons for Nintendo Switch games being so expensive, but I do want to speculate here for a moment. I've also mentioned the novelty of playing these massive open world games on the Switch when it feels like they shouldn't even be running on a Nintendo console. I for one can confirm that games like The Witcher 3 or Skyrim play way better on a PS5 or an Xbox Series, yet I often choose to buy and play them on the Switch. Sure, it may be the ability to play handheld, but even when not playing handheld, sometimes I just want to buy the Switch version when it's available. I can't really explain it. The controller is by far the least comfortable, assuming you're using the Joy-Cons. The games often run at a stuttery 30 frames per second, and you'd be lucky to get 1080p. There is surely no 4K here. So why is it that the Nintendo version is often chosen? Well, I don't have a good answer to that. Maybe it's curiosity, or maybe it's due to me being a collector for the console, but I really do think it just goes back to that brand power Nintendo has established through their decades of hard work and innovation. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope it helped clarify the reasoning for Nintendo Switch games being more pricey than games for other consoles. If there are any other factors that you believe impact the price of these games, I would love to hear them, so be sure to comment down below letting me know. Also, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe, as every day we're getting slightly closer to that 1,000 sub mark, and becoming fully monetized will allow me to consistently produce the best quality that I'm capable of. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.